Governor Steve Sisolak gave his first State of the State address last night.
That's right. Now we know what some of his goals are for the next 2 years. The governor touched on a lot of issues, from education to the housing crunch, even marijuana legislation, but he focused a lot of the address on the budget.
As they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's why this budget that you're being presented with is without any new taxes.
Our Republicans in attendance were happy, they say, to hear that the governor doesn't plan on raising taxes, but some are still questioning how he's going to pay for some of his new investments.
And that's because our revenue is going up, but so are costs, obviously. Paul Nelson was at last night's speech. He joins us here in the studio. And Paul, how are lawmakers reacting to the governor's spending plan?
Well, most of the people we talked to like a lot of his ideas, Kristen, and that's as long as the state can afford them. According to the executive budget, general fund revenue will be more than $700 million higher than it is right now. But some lawmakers say a lot of that's already getting eaten up by existing programs.
While we have work to do, I stand before you, and I am proud to announce that the state of the state is full of opportunity.
The economy is thriving and revenue is growing. That's why Governor Steve Sisolak is increasing spending by hundreds of millions of dollars, a far cry from 8 years ago when lawmakers were dealing with the recession.
The hardest thing to do was to come into this building and cut hundreds of millions of dollars for education, cut hundreds of millions of dollars for mental health. And now we get to put money into education. We get to put money into mental health.
Most lawmakers agree that things like education, pay raises, and increased law enforcement are good ideas. Republicans are happy that Steve Sisolak's budget doesn't include new taxes, but the concern is that the extra costs might be too steep.
That's fascinating. We're not going to raise taxes. That's fascinating. I look forward to not doing it.
Some say the budget might not have new taxes, but it might require some creativity.
That tells me he's going to extend certain taxes. It tells me he's not going to reduce certain taxes that need to be, or that are scheduled to be reduced, and probably maybe reformulate taxes.
The general fund will have the most revenue in state history, and that also means the most spending. Lawmakers say the proposal looks balanced on paper, and they expect to approve most of Sisolak's requests.
I think there's going to be an opportunity to deal with the budget and deal with what he outlined. There may be some massaging, with some positions and some funding, but I think as a whole, our caucus is pretty happy with what they heard.
Lawmakers are already looking at the numbers. In fact, some of the money committees are already getting a head start. The legislative session starts February 4th, and they'll have 120 days to approve a budget. Covering the story live in the studio, Paul Nelson, 2 News.